You're the guy people call when they need a helping hand, moving furniture, unloading a truck. But lately, your shoulder's been acting up, and you're the one who's calling for help. And that's the moment you realize you can no longer shoulder the load.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care with a range of surgical and non-surgical treatments. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better. The Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This podcast, episode 595, Food, Fitness, Weed, and Self-Love with Dope Kitchen's Nicole.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This podcast. I am Amanda Valentine. I'm very excited about my guest. I am fangirling. Is Nicole from Dope Kitchen. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm awesome. So if people don't follow you, I found you on TikTok, but now I mostly see your stuff on Instagram. And I know that you haven't even started your account that long ago, and you've kind of like gone like TikTok famous, which is gotta be interesting. I mean, did you ever think that you were going to become like a big deal on TikTok?
Not at all. I started my TikTok page back in April. Well, I had a TikTok page before I even started posting, but I was just a lurker. My For You page was filled with a lot of fart videos and poop jokes. So that's what's on my page, in case you're wondering what I find funny. So yeah, I was really just sad during quarantine. Like in those first couple of weeks, I was really excited because I was like, we're going to get through this. Everything's going to be fine. And then when I started to realize that it's not fine and we're going to be stuck like this for a long time, I started to get really depressed. So I just needed some reason to get out of bed and do something that could make me smile or even make some of my friends laugh. So I just decided to get high and bake a pie that reminded me of home. So I did that, and I only posted it on my personal Instagram story. And a lot of my friends were like, you have to post this on TikTok. It's really funny and it'll probably go viral. So I did. And I posted it to TikTok, closed the app, didn't look at it again until maybe 6 hours later. And then when I opened the app, I had thousands of notifications from people who liked the video or commented on it. And people asked, like, you need to make more of these. I need more Dope Kitchen videos. Or it wasn't even called Dope Kitchen back then. It was just called Nicole Bakes Baked. So yeah, I just kind of took it and ran with it. And I only produced a few videos in those first 2 months because I didn't really know what kind of format I wanted. But then starting in June, that's when I started to create content more consistently. And I started my Instagram in June, and I just got thousands upon thousands of followers on both of those platforms. And it was just wild to me. Like, none of this was planned. I did not anticipate that any of this would happen, but it's been such a wonderful journey from the beginning.
Well, it's just like so much fun to watch because one, you're getting high while you're cooking, and lately you've been infusing a lot.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know I know you have like so many promo codes and stuff now. What's the machine that you use to like infuse?
It's called a Levo. So that company reached out to me and gave me the product for free. And I was like, I don't really make my own edibles because of that one experience in Disneyland many years ago when I got way too high and had to get wheeled out of Disneyland. I posted that story a couple months ago on my Instagram and TikTok. But yeah, they sent me this machine and it's really cool, but I still like don't often bake or cook with infused butter.
Yeah, it seems like it's a dangerous game. But for me, like the recipes that you make are just freaking bomb. They look so delicious. And so at first I started, really enjoying your content because I was like, you're really funny. Your food looks freaking phenomenal. And it's just the overall vibe you have is awesome. And then when you kind of just started showing that, that you are a lifter, that, of just what you're doing to fuel your body, and really just, I feel like at least in my opinion, as just somebody that like just watches your stuff, it feels like that more of that came out of you rather than I'm just getting high and cooking. And that's where I'm like, I love this chick because, well, you're into hiking and so am I. And I just love the idea of like, I'm cooking and I'm having fun with it, but I'm doing this to fuel my body so I can do these things and see where my body can go, that, you know, that you can lift, so you can go backpacking, so you can go on a hike, and it's not, you know, food doesn't, when you think of like a living healthy lifestyle, you can involve edibles and weed, and it can involve, you know, being high and not just thinking eating Cheetos, of just like, we can do this and we can do this in a healthy way without being like, oh, I just have to eat broccoli and rice and live this like quote unquote, you know, diet life in order to have the body that I want and just go to a gym and do cardio all day.
Right, exactly. When my channel really first started to take off, I started to think about the mission behind it and what I wanted people to learn, not only about me, but about my lifestyle. And my lifestyle, I feel, is totally attainable. So I wanted to break the stigma of weed use or cannabis use. I want people to know that like you don't have to be like some lazy gamer who only eats fast food and junk food and gets high on his mom's couch. Like that's not what the image of a cannabis user is these days. And I want people to see that like just because I lift and work out doesn't mean I eat just like chicken, rice, and broccoli every day. Like you can have a lot of fun with food and make it good for you and have like the good things that you really love, like sweets and burgers and pizza, etc. But like in moderation. I just want people to understand that you can have this very balanced lifestyle where you can have fun, you can love yourself, you can be a cannabis user, you can eat delicious food. Sometimes it's healthy and sometimes it's a little treat, you know? So I'm just trying really hard to use my image and my lifestyle to break the stigma of what it means to be like a super healthy fit person or a cannabis user.
Yeah. So tell me about your lifting. Or about your fitness journey. How did you get into that? Because I've seen some of your videos and I'm like, damn, this is some serious stuff here that that you're into, throwing some weights around.
Yeah, well, I guess to go way back, when I was a kid, my parents put me in dance class when I was like 3 or 4 years old. And I was a dancer all throughout my entire childhood, and I quit after high school. In high school, toward the end of high school, I was literally just trying to build my college resume and like put more things on my college application. So I joined the track team, even though I wasn't good at all. And then in college, I just wanted to like leave dance behind. That was like a 15-year journey of my life, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. There's a lot of drama in the dance world sometimes. So I wanted to try sports, and I got into rowing for a couple of years. I later got into distance running toward the end of my college journey. I ran one marathon, and I thought, never again. I will never do that ever again in my life. But it was still a very fun experience. And then I started around the time that Instagram videos became popular. I would stumble across a lot of these pages where people are posting videos of their weightlifting. And I didn't even know what it was called back then. Like I saw this one guy posting videos of his clean and jerks and his snatches. And I didn't even know that that was Olympic lifting. But I was just fascinated by those movements. I was like, that's so cool. That's so badass. I want to learn how to do that. And I started to find a bunch of females who, a bunch of women who were also doing Olympic style lifting or CrossFit, powerlifting, etc. And I saw their body shapes and I was like, they're definitely bigger, more muscular women. And that's like what I wanted to be. I wanted to just be the kind of person who like walks into a room and everyone looks at them and they're like, oh, I don't want to fuck with that person.
Yeah.
Like I've always been this kind of shy person growing up. And I just felt that putting some muscle on my body and gaining some strength would make me be like a more confident and outgoing person. And it's a long journey to get to the level of confidence that I have now, but I credit so much of like my self-love and my confidence to the fact that I no longer care about what I look like, and I care more about the strength that my body has. And I put a lot of time and effort into building my strength and eating enough, like eating at a caloric surplus most of the time so that I can gain a little bit of weight and gain some strength. So, I mean, all of that has just contributed to my confidence levels just going way up over the last 5 years. But anyway, I got into Olympic lifting about 5.5 years ago, a little less than that. And I did it for about 3 years, and it's kind of a long story with some drama with coaches, and like my coach wasn't very good, and then I got a new one, but then she left. So I eventually transitioned into powerlifting, which is what I mostly focus on now. And I love it, but powerlifting as a sport is honestly kind of boring. It's just squat, bench press, and deadlift. It's like, that's it. So yeah, I kind of go through cycles where I get really into lifting for a good like 6 to 10 month period, and then I'm like, okay, I need a break. So that's when I focus on being outdoors a lot and hiking a shit ton. And then once the winter hits and it's a little too cold for me to be outside, that's when I start like my next lifting cycle. But yeah, lifting has 100% changed my life, and I really want to encourage more women to get into like some heavy strength training, because again, I want to break a stigma here, because I feel like so many women think that, oh, if I touch a dumbbell or a barbell, I'm going to like blow up into these massive muscles. And I'm like, no, you're not. It's going to take many years and a lot of calories in order to like have that bodybuilder type of physique. But if you put muscle on your body, like muscle burns more fat than if you don't have a lot of muscle. And it just like shapes your body. Like you literally have the ability to build a physique that you are confident in through heavy lifting.
Yeah, it does totally blow my mind that so many women are afraid of getting like too bulky, because like you said, that's really hard. But I think that even outside of that, I think a lot of women are scared of eating more. Like you feel like you get this hammered into your head, this 1,200 calorie thing, that if I eat more than that, you're going to have to roll me out the door. And so it's like when you're doing those heavy lifts, like you have to fuel your body. You have to eat carbs. And I think that just freaks a lot of women out.
100%. Yeah, it really does blow my mind that so many women think that like a 1,200 calorie diet is okay. When in reality, like, especially if you're already starting at a bigger point, a 1,200 calorie diet is probably going to ruin your body in so many ways and ruin your metabolism. You have to like come up with a set amount of calories if you're trying to diet that actually works for your current body. Like you can't be in that deep of a deficit, because it's really not good for you. And yeah, like it's nuts how much so many people fear carbs, and carbs are what give me so much fuel to do the lifting, the hiking that I do. And I'm just trying to show people through my content that it's okay to eat. And I talked about this on the last podcast interview that I had, but like in my content, I like to show myself eating and then sometimes showing myself finishing an entire plate of food, because I think that's really important for women to see. Like a lot of food content creators will make food, but they only do it for the content and they don't necessarily do it to like eat on camera and have a meal. But for me, whenever I make content, I'm literally eating that entire plate of food. And I want to show people, like, I want to normalize eating, because so many women are just like so afraid to put food in their bodies because they think they're going to get bigger. And I'm like, no, it's literally going to give you so much strength to do the fun activities that you might want to do.
And what's kind of bonkers too, I mean, speaking of like the online world, because I mean, I always show what I'm eating too. And I've had people try to shame me of like, well, that looks like a lot of food. And I'm like, it's all vegetables. And like, it's not my body, what I'm eating, of like, that's something that you got going on here, that you're mad at me of like, that looks like you're eating too much. Like, and so what? Like, it's crazy. Just, the danger you can get into reading the comments on stuff of like, man, people just got these opinions about what you eat. So I think that's so great that you're doing that. 'Cause I think that is such a great point of, so many people, it's like, here's a pretty picture of food, but are you just throwing it in the trash afterwards? Are you going to sit there and power eat it? Or like, are you not going to eat it at all? Like, it's just, yeah, I think that just so smart to show that. But it's also, I think that it also, because we're not used to that, the triggered reactions of where you, like I've had before of like, because it's like people like just don't even know what to do with it because it's so rare, which is really weird.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking of reading the comments, it's something that I have to stop myself from doing sometimes because some people can be really so ruthless on the internet. And I feel very lucky because on my TikTok and Instagram, like 99.5% of my comments are incredibly positive. And people love what I put out there, and like the nice comments and especially the very heartfelt DMs that I get, that's what keeps me going. But I do once in a while get some really rude comments. The most recent funny one was just a very angered Italian who was mad at my pesto recipe. He's like, if you're not using a mortar and pestle, then it's not actually pesto. And you're using walnuts, so it's not actually pesto. I'm like, it's my fucking recipe. It's my food. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. Like, I don't give a shit if some grandma in Italy is going to get mad at me for my pesto recipe. But some people, I post a day of eating video every once in a while just to show like the volume of food that I eat, especially with my goal right now being weight gain and strength gain. I get a lot of comments from people being like, wow, that is way too much food. And I'm like, okay, maybe for you it is, but for me, I'm eating for my goals and I'm eating for my sanity and happiness. So what works for me is going to work, like might not work for someone else. And it's just so wild that people who are like uneducated in the field of nutrition trying to like shame other people for like the choices that they eat.
Yeah,
so
totally. And especially when you're doing those heavy lifts or doing those hikes, I mean, you need fuel. Like whenever I've done some crazy hikes before, specifically when I used to volunteer for the PCT, which if anybody doesn't know is the trail that goes from Mexico to Canada. And so when you're doing trail work, like we're like, cutting down trees and cutting out weeds for the hikers. We're doing tread on the trail. We're putting in water bars. Like you are working. So you have to hike 5 miles out to work, hike 5 miles back in. You're doing that 2 days in a row. Every time I would do it, I'd come home and eat an entire large pizza by myself. And I'm like, I am starving. Like I worked today. And it's like, but I still like lost over 100 pounds still being able to do that. It's not like, oh, well, punish yourself now. Or if I didn't do that kind of workout, I wasn't allowed to eat. Like it was this weird relationship we all have with food versus working out. And I don't know. It's like those things, like you have to fuel yourself. Is pizza the best choice? I don't know. Maybe not. Again, if it's for your mental sanity, who cares? It's like, that's what I wanted to do. But on the flip side of that, of like, oh, I ate a whole pizza. Well, now I got to go run a marathon to burn it off. It's this, I don't know. It feels like no matter what, you can find some sort of like negative route in it when it shouldn't be that way at all. Like food is meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be fueled. Moving your body is meant to be celebrated. Like it's badass that you can be on a trail all day or summit a mountain or whatever. You shouldn't be worried about eating pizza or you eating too much trail mix or eating, a entire box of rice-a-roni or something like that because you're watching carbs. Like, oh my God, it's just, we get hung up on the weirdest things.
I know. I went on a pretty big hike, just a day hike, I think back in August or something. It was about 21 miles. It's one of my favorite hikes in California, or at least in the Southern California region, San Jacinto or Jacinto. I can't remember how it's pronounced. But anyway, I was so hungry when I got home, and I ended up just going into my fitness pal and logging all of the food that I had eaten that day just to see like how much I had consumed and how much more I think I needed that night. And I remember I had only eaten maybe 3,000 calories at that point by the time I got home, and I was still so hungry. So when you log your activity in MyFitnessPal, it'll tell you how much more food you're able to eat that day. And I think I had like another 4,000 calories that I had to eat. So I was like, okay, I'm ordering Chipotle and I'm ordering pizza. I don't give a shit. But it's funny because like when you do a really intense activity like that and then you end up eating a shit ton of food to like replenish the calories that you burned, I still wake up the next day looking like a snack. Like I still look good, but the key there is just feeling better the next day when I give myself as much food as I am supposed to be eating. So like if I had stopped at 3,000 calories that day and didn't order Chipotle and pizza, I probably would have felt totally drained the next day because I didn't replenish or refuel my body after a very long hike like that. Like when you put your body through that much strenuous activity, like your PCT volunteering or lifting or massive hikes, you have to give yourself food back, because an activity like that is not necessarily meant to be like just a weight loss activity, you know. Like it's something that challenges you mentally and physically, and you need to be able to, you know, intake a lot of calories in order to continue to do things like that, or to stay injury free, or just to like feel better for the rest of the week. So
yeah, and that's kind of where, you know, your mental health and mindset plays such a big role in that too, of to not shame yourself for those things. Like it's like we don't allow, or a lot of people, you know, I've been in this place a lot too, of like not giving yourself the allowance to do it. Like you're thinking, oh, or even bringing it back to letting people know what you eat, of like, I'm afraid people are going to think like I'm a pig or something, or like you go on a date and you eat like 2 bites of something because I don't want them to think I'm too fat and I'm eating too much, of like this, just this huge shame around food is just like, it's, and then you're not, I mean, it feels like it's just counterintuitive. Like you're just going to, having those thoughts and tearing yourself apart or shaming yourself for eating or not eating is not going to put your body in a good place. You're putting yourself already in a place of stress before you add the added stress of lifting or hiking or whatever. And it's, you know, it's, I think that, I mean, I don't know the solution to that, because I feel like that's kind of the core root problem of a lot of things. It's just our mental mindset, which, you know, I'm sure, you know, having some medicinal help with that helps calm the brain a little bit so you kind of get out of it.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think about this problem a lot because I feel pretty lucky that I've never had any like bad eating disorder or disordered eating issues in the past. And I reflect a lot on that because a lot of people DM me and talk to me about their issues with disordered eating or issues with it in the past. And for me, I mean, I didn't have a really great nutritional background when I was growing up. Like it wasn't really taught in schools. I had no idea what the difference between protein, carbs, and fat were back when I was younger. I was a very picky eater when I was a kid. So my parents would just like let me eat whatever I wanted to eat, only because there weren't many things that I wanted to eat. So they were like, fuck it, you want McDonald's, you get McDonald's. I'm sick of trying to feed you. So anyway, I feel very lucky that like I had parents who never shamed me for eating a certain way. I think their only frustration was like, oh my God, you really need to learn how to eat other foods. Like, please try chicken or turkey instead of just red meat and meatballs. But no one ever shamed me for the way I looked or for the things that I wanted to eat. And I feel very fortunate because of that, because I didn't end up with like any big issues around food and eating. But as I got older and I started learning how to exercise and lift, I started to realize that food was going to be a huge part of my strength journey. And it was going to be probably one of the most important things for me. So I had to learn how to cook, and I had to learn how to eat better and have a more diverse source of proteins and carbs, and just having pasta and meatballs and burgers all the time. So I think about my own journey a lot when I hear stories of other people, and it like breaks my heart that so many people are like pressured by their parents who like don't want them to eat a certain amount of food because they don't want them to like be really obese, but they don't have the right education to even teach their children how to properly fuel their bodies. Like there's just so much shame around food, and that's a generational thing. And I think parents just teach their kids the wrong habits, and then kids don't really know how to learn to correct for those habits. And then it just is an endless cycle of fearing carbs or fearing food. And just one thing that I really want to try to continue to do with my content is to inspire people to get back on like the right mindset track for like seeing food as something that's actually helpful for your body, as opposed to food being the enemy and exercise being the way to punish yourself because of food.
Yeah, totally. I mean, as somebody who has disordered eating, I have a binge eating disordered, what I've been dealing with forever. And for me, it's so deeply rooted in me. I had really horrible nutrition stuff growing up too, but it's like that. For me, it's the source of comfort of like dealing with like stress or trauma. Like that's the way I soothe myself. So that's been really hard for me as far as I've come on my own journey with COVID and everything that's happened this year of just really wanting to revert back to that feels comforting to me, is really wanting to go to these foods to just comfort myself. But then that's me. But it's just like how everybody deals differently. Like I've seen in your Instagram post recently that you said that you were very stressed. I mean, and things are going on and, you know, you're forgetting to eat, and how it's just that, again, it's not, you even have to have a disordered eating at all. It's just how we all deal with different things. And this is an extremely stressful time for so many reasons. And, you know, for me, like, I just want to just eat and to soothe myself. But like, you know, people like you, like my husband's just like you, of like, I'm stressed out, I can't eat anything. And you have to like remind him to eat today. And so it's just like how, again, like the food kind of plays into just kind of where you're at mentally and where it is. And I love that you post that and that you're open about that, because you know, no, that's isn't an open struggle a lot of people talk about either. Is I'm stressed and my food situation and how I eat is altered because of that stress.
Yeah. I feel like that's something that is not talked about enough, because so many people do have like a similar problem to yours, where like we turn to food as comfort during stressful times. But for me, especially since I kind of stopped meal prepping this year, since I work from home and I have the ability to just cook whenever I need to, I almost see cooking as something that is a stressful activity, which is a weird thing for me to say since I have a social media presence that's all about cooking. But sometimes like I really love to get creative with my recipes and like come up with something that's like really delicious and well thought out. But if I'm in a very stressful position, like right now at work, it's during this very busy time of year, I just don't have the mental energy to come up with like, okay, what am I going to cook today? What recipe am I going to make? So I end up just eating a lot of eggs and turkey sandwiches and yogurt, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, we all deal with stress a little differently. And I mean, marijuana definitely helps me deal with some of that stress, because it also kind of revs my appetite when I need it to. So if at the end of the day I realize, oh shit, I skipped a meal and my workout tomorrow is probably going to suck if I don't get the calories in, so I better smoke a half a joint and eat a lot of food right now. But yeah, it's definitely been very eye-opening on my pages to like have conversations with people in DMs who are telling me about their habits with eating and just seeing how different it is from mine. And it has made me want to like really educate myself a lot more on like different eating patterns and how to correct for some behaviors. Like I'm even trying to learn how to correct for my own under eating behavior right now, where like maybe I should meal prep a little bit more, or maybe I should have more very quick and easy sources of protein in my house, like deli turkey, because I know I need to eat it, and sometimes I'm just too lazy to cook. So yeah, it's crazy how we all deal with it a little differently, but I'm definitely learning from everyone who is in my virtual circle right now.
So are you worried at all that you'll kind of get burnt out on this, of like the pressure of coming up with new recipes and making the videos and like keeping things up to par? Because it seems like that would add even more stress to your already the stress you already have with work, that you're stressing about your release from work.
100%. And I've been having this conversations with the close friends in my life in the last couple of weeks, because I do feel like I've been starting to feel that burnout a little bit with Dope Kitchen. And I don't want to feel that way. But I made a promise to myself and to my friends when I first started this journey. I was like, the moment it is no longer fun, I'm going to take a step back from it. And that's what I feel like I've started to do a little bit over the last couple of weeks. But I'm starting to get that itch to make content again. So I'm probably going to spend my weekend doing a little bit of that. But yeah, I definitely I mean, it's just so hard to juggle a full-time job with all of the dope kitchen things that I want to do, plus trying to actually eat healthy and feed myself enough food during the day, plus my own workouts, plus my social life. Like, it's a lot right now. And I'm sacrificing a lot of things. Like, I sacrifice dating, I sacrifice traveling sometimes. I mean, not really. Recently, I've been doing a lot of weekend trips, and that means that I have less time for Dope Kitchen. So it's just like, what am I going to put my energy? Time am I going to need to recover from all of the things that are stressing me out so that I can get back to the things that like I really want to do, which is make content. But I mean, I would love to turn Dope Kitchen into a full-time gig someday, but I think right now I'm just a little overwhelmed thinking about what is the first step that I want to take that could lead to me like turning this into a full-time gig. And right now I'm thinking that getting a nutrition certification so I can start coaching people is my first step. So I have signed up for Precision Nutrition so that I can start reading and learning. And I hope that a year from now, I can start coaching people who really need help in like developing better habits with eating and fueling their bodies and developing a better relationship with food. So that's my number one goal, but I would also love to do a lot of other things. Like, I find podcasts so fun and interesting, and I would love to start my own someday. And I would also love to get on YouTube, but kind of going back to the conversation we were having about bad comments, and YouTube is the worst place for that. I had originally posted a bunch of my TikTok content onto YouTube, and I got some of the worst comments like I've ever read, and I had to just step away from that platform. Like, people telling me that I look like a 65-year-old.
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm like, oh, okay, shit, I'm trying to make people laugh. I don't want to be told that I look like I'm more than double my age. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure things out and try to figure out how to make Dope Kitchen a sustainable, freestanding business, I guess, and start working for myself. But it's a long journey ahead, and I don't want to burn myself out too quickly because this did just start like 5 months ago. So yeah, it's a long process.
Yeah, man. I mean, if I could give some advice, even though you didn't ask for it, as somebody who has lived through this and is living it, because I mean, this is obviously a passion of mine. I've been obese since as long as I can remember, since I was 6. I yo-yo dieted through my entire 20s. And then for me, my story is, so it was 9 years ago now, I made the decision of like, I was power binge eating every night. I was secret eating. I hated, I was living in Denver. I wouldn't even go for a walk outside. Like, I'm like, who is this person? This isn't who I want to be. And so I'm like, my mantra has always been, since that moment on, was make the best decision possible in every moment. If it's going to a ball game and getting a hot dog and a beer, that's the best decision. I'm living my life. But like, you know, but the other decisions of going for a walk or eating the chicken and broccoli and rice right now is the best decision. And so I'm so passionate about it and I care about this so much. And then I started this podcast 3 years ago. And to see, again, like I just know so much where you're at when you other people connect with it is just like, oh my God, my voice like means something. This is helping other people. This is something that I care a lot about. I want to help other people. So going through that and then turning this of quitting my full-time job to make this my full-time job, my advice is 100% give yourself that break, because I was at massive burnout. I mean, I was doing my job, which is a very involved job of like living my life was my job. And then the podcast became a full-time job on the side that I didn't get paid for, plus my own fitness, plus my meal prep, plus everything else. So it was like from before sun up to way past sundown, nonstop, and just flamed out. And then you're no good to anybody. So, I mean, I would say take the time you need, because it is something that I know, like, I just know that you love so much that to lose it or to feel like less passionate about it is just, it's murder. It sucks so bad. And so to take a step back and kind of do it smart and take it slow, I think that's just really, really smart, because I feel like, I've been through so many levels of burnout, and I'm just dealing even with that now this year of making this my full-time thing, of just trying to play catch up, of just burning out my cortisol levels and everything else, of just trying to make things happen. That it's like, man, I should have just stepped back for a few weeks and take a month off. It's like, it's not going to matter. The world's not going to crumble. People aren't going to stop watching you or stop caring about you if you don't just like take a chill pill for a little bit. So I know that was a long answer there, but like, I think that's incredibly smart too, to protect yourself first, because then everybody else around you benefits. Because I would hate to see, because I love your content and I love following you, and I would hate to see you just give up and tap out and not be a source of, of good information, of laughter, of positive vibes around, because you felt too stressed to make a video or to create new recipes when you didn't want to.
100%. And I totally appreciate all of your thoughts that you have shared with me on that, because like I've thought about giving up on many occasions. Sometimes giving up is triggered by like a really negative comment. Sometimes giving up is just triggered by like being so busy with other things in life. But I don't want to give this up, because I feel like with Dope Kitchen, I finally found a purpose in life. And it sounds really cheesy to say that, but like with my career that I've been building over the last like 6 years since I graduated grad school, like it's fun, it's fulfilling to a certain point, but it's not something that like gives me that fiery passion within, but with Dope Kitchen and with the connections that I've made with people, that feels like, oh, this is the reason you walk on earth, is to make people laugh, to inspire people to love themselves and to take better care of themselves, and to inspire people to just change their lives and their lifestyle in a way that is so beneficial for them. Like you can still be a pot smoker, still be very active and healthy, and just have a really wonderful, well-balanced, well-rounded life. And I just want to show people that it's okay to want those things for yourself and to go after it and like put yourself first. So, I mean, I want to continue growing in a positive direction so that I can continue to reach more people that I truly care about. Like I care about everyone who like sends me DMs and shares their stories with me. I feel like I've become friends with some people who are consistently in my DMs. It's really wonderful. So I definitely don't want to give this up. But I know that I need breaks, and it's been a nice couple of weeks, like not really making any video content, not posting too much to my Instagram stories. And I feel like I'm starting to feel that itch to actually make content again. So it was a nice little break, and it taught me that I need to give myself space from my own activities sometimes, because, it gets exhausting.
Yeah. And I mean, what you do is really makes a difference. I mean, even for the people that don't slide in your DMs, like I don't think I've ever commented on any one of your videos on Instagram or TikTok. I am the ultimate lurker. I am forever a lurker with everything. And so, but that you've made a difference in my life. Like you're one of the only people I follow on TikTok, and I'm on TikTok like way too much. And so I'm like, I mean that, you inspired me, and I just think that you're awesome and you're a badass. And like, here I am not even reaching out to you, of like, how many people are there like me that you've made, you make a difference in their daily life, or have made them cook a recipe in a different way that they haven't made before. I've made your protein oatmeal, and I've eaten oatmeal a million different ways before, and I still made oatmeal your way. And I'm like, this is freaking delicious. And so I think that I'm glad that you put yourself out in the world, and you're willing to put yourself out there where people can give you all these like shitty comments, and you open yourself up for attack just because people suck sometimes. But on the flip side of that, of like just how many people you've touched just by like getting high and making food and talking about your fitness, is, I think that's where there's so many negative things about the internet that's so positive. And I'm just happy that you put yourself out there, because I personally really enjoy you, and I'm really glad that you agreed to be on my little podcast and share your story, because I just think that I'm just hoping other people just pick up the vibe too. And you're just, yeah, I just want you to, I hope you just keep doing this because you're putting a lot of positivity out in the world that doesn't look so positive right now.
That's so, so sweet of you. And I really appreciate that comment. And I do feel like I get that comment a lot from people who are like, don't stop. We need your positive vibes in such a dark world. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, right? No pressure. Just make my mental illness go away, okay?
Yeah, it's such a fun and exciting journey. And I'm happy to hear from you as someone who has also like put their career to the side and just pursued your own passions. I mean, I feel like I need to continue learning from so many people who have been on the path like yours, because I am just so afraid of like taking that leap of faith sometimes and just putting all of my faith into my personal work instead of like being or, you know, collecting a steady paycheck from some corporation that I work for, you know? So I think the scariest part is the financial instability of like being your own boss and being your own content creator. But I've worked my ass off to save as much money as possible over the last several years. So I feel like I'm in a good place where I can be like, okay, you get 3 months off. And if you fail at doing what you set out to do, then you can always go back to finding a full-time job. But you know, if it does work out, then it works out. Then awesome. Congrats. You have a new job and it's working for yourself. So
yeah.
So yeah.
It's hard though. And there's a lot of it that's really hard and really scary. At least for me, it's just for me though, like, cause I did the same thing. I saved up a bunch of money of like, okay, well, and then for me, I'm like, cause I was offered to stay at my job and, for me, my contract was up and they wanted me to stay another 3 years. And so that's scary when it's not like you're being pushed out, when you have the opportunity to stay. And I'm like, if I don't try this, I'm going to regret it the rest of my life. I'm going to wonder what if like this, everything seems to be like the time is now. And if I don't jump, then is there ever going to be another time to jump again? And so it's really, really scary, but like, it's so worth it. Cause I feel like what I'm doing makes me happy and feels like I'm helping other people, which ultimately is what I really love. So, and I think that if you wanted to start a podcast, I think it'd be amazing too. If I can help in any way, I mean, I can help you. I mean, I've worked in radio forever and like my husband started a podcast network at a university and he sets up podcasts for people. So if you need podcast help, you found your lady.
Well, I've already been creeping on this platform that we're recording on. I'm like, ooh, what's this?
Oh, yeah. See, I use this because, so anybody listening, I use Whereby because Zoom, it feels like so many people are on Zoom and it gets overcrowded and cluttered. And plus, it didn't jive with my equipment because I have like, like a control board and I have like a studio quality mic and I have all this stuff. I'm not like recording just directly through my laptop or anything, and Zoom for some reason just didn't want to gel. So this is what my husband uses for his university. So yeah, I mean, it's you just like learn all of these little things, and it's so much, I think, with anything, with any sort of journey, because again, it's a new journey of becoming an entrepreneur. Just like any sort of health journey is just like you have to just run into every closed door, and it's just like, well, you just can't give up. You just keep trying the next thing, and it's frustrating and sometimes, and it's exhausting, and there's burnout with everything, like you said, but it's like, well, but if this is what I want, then I'm just gonna try the next door and then the next one, and we'll see what works. As long as you got the fire inside of you and you don't let that burn out, then I think that's what's important. Is to protect
do you ever
that.
Get impatient when you're like trying something new for your own business, and do you ever feel like you give up too quickly, like just before you cross the finish line? Because I feel like that is a good analogy for like a fitness or health journey. Like a lot of people will give up right away when they try a new diet or a new style of workout because they're like, oh, I'm not good at it right away, or I'm not seeing the results I want right away, so I'm going to quit before I actually like see any positive impact that it's having on me. And I feel like maybe in business, especially as an entrepreneur, you either have the mindset where you're like, I'm going to just keep going as far as I can, no matter how many times I fail, and I'm going to keep up this energy? Or do you ever feel like you give up just before you cross the finish line with anything that you're trying to accomplish as an entrepreneur?
Oh my God, that's a good question. Now you're interviewing me. It's your podcast now. I think it depends. I think it all just takes, with all of it, it just takes a lot of practice and self-awareness of kind of going, I'm really trying to feel out my gut feelings with stuff of when it's time to let something go. I think that it's been difficult this year because this is a year that I was making this really huge life-changing jump. And then 2 months in, here comes a global pandemic. And so a lot of the plans that I had to try to run after just got shut down. There was a lot of travel and speaking engagements and a lot of stuff that just don't exist in a COVID world anymore. So those just had to die. And so that sucks. That doesn't mean they're off the table forever, but who knows how long. So with other things too, and like I was supposed to start personal training at my gym, and the first client I was supposed to have was the day the gym's closed. And so it's for me now, after that, it's just to really kind of sit in the feeling of, is that something that needs to die? I don't pursue anymore. Do I really want to be an in-person personal trainer at a gym? Is that part of my journey? Where am I going? Do I need to let it go, or do I need to run after it? And the feeling I've been having, like with that in particular, is kind of like still let it go and sit on it for now. I don't think there's anything I've really fully trashed. I think everything just kind of hits the back burner or hits a pause until it feels better or something better presents itself. So I don't really feel like there was anything that I felt like I was on the cusp of doing and then backed off. At least so far, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm even answering this right. It's just, I don't know. I don't think so, but I feel like I've gotten better with that, at least with fitness stuff, because there's stuff I've done where I try to give everything a solid chance, and then I know that's a no. Like, I hate bar classes. I know that's a no. I've done multiple now, enough to know that I hate it. I hate that too. Yeah, that sucks. It feels like there's knives in my feet. No thanks. And so I did CrossFit for a while, and I like the community of CrossFit, and it might have just been the box I was at, but it's like, if you don't puke, you're not doing it right. And I'm like, I don't want to puke. And so I know, right? And so for me, I'm like, that's a no, and find something else. And so right now I'm new to Pilates, and there's parts of it I'm very frustrated with, of like, when it's complicated moves or it's multiple moves at the same time, I feel stupid, but I'm like, I know this is good for me. I like it enough that push past it and just keep going. I don't know. I just feel like I have this feeling now when I know when things are worth pushing through versus giving up. Bar, I don't care. That's a pass. But Pilates, even though I'm struggling a little bit with some aspects of it, there's some things I really love about it, so I keep. So I know that was a really long-winded answer, but did that answer the question?
Oh, speaking of Pilates, I've never done it, but a lot of my friends in the CrossFit/lifting community here swear by it. So I need to find myself an outdoor Pilates studio that is offering classes, because that seems really intense, and it seems like something that I probably need, because it's so much of it is like core stability, right?
Yeah, and that's where I got a lot of problems with my body, but like it's I really don't fight for my core. Plus, I have oh my God, why am I thinking of I'm not even gonna get into my problems, but like, yeah, I don't fire from my core at all. And so for me, doing Pilates on a reformer is a good way to just you have to kind of get yourself in that place where you're working on core rather than just doing a million crunches. And it's just, I think it's overall good. I think I'm going to become, better at the other things I do, because everything comes from your core. And if I'm not firing from my core and I can't even do breathing exercises right, like how can I expect myself to go into a proper deadlift or anything? So that's where one of those things of like, this is good for me. I like it. I'm going to stick with it, where there's been plenty of other stuff that I tried and I I bounced on. And some things I used to really love running. I lost so much weight running because I love that I could just go outside and run. And you can see behind me in the video, I have a lot of race stuff.
Yeah.
And then I've just totally like burnt my knees up from it. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't take a step back. My body was screaming at me and I'm like, shut up, bitch, just keep going. There's a medal at the end and a banana. So, and I didn't listen to myself and now I can't run anymore. So everything I think is just with everything is just knowing yourself and trusting yourself. And I think being an entrepreneur is hard because I'm really, really mean to myself. I'm really, really hard on myself. And to know when I'm just being an asshole to me versus I'm just not pushing myself hard enough. And that for me is a hard line that I really try to sift through of when are you just being mean because that's just how you roll versus you need the extra motivation. So I'd say, and I've said this before on this podcast this year, I have learned that I'm like my own worst boss, like 0 out of 10. Like I am so mean to myself. I have such high expectations that I don't behave this way to anyone else in the world but me. And so when being my own boss, I'm like, oh my God, this bitch. And like, that's a new learning curve for me too, of like, not only taking that from a health and wellness perspective where I've used to beating myself up, but now beating myself up as my own boss. So that's something to work through too. I don't know if you deal with that same problem or not, but that's definitely a problem for me.
Yeah, I don't deal with it too much, but there's always the saying like treat other people the way you would want to be treated, but I feel like that should be twisted to like treat yourself the way that you would want other people to treat you, or treat yourself the way that you try to treat other people in a positive way.
Yeah.
I feel like if there's more self-love and if we are kinder to ourselves, then I feel like the world can be such a better place, because when we hate ourselves, when we're mean to ourselves, when we like talk shit to ourselves, I feel like that like all this hatred just like boils within you and it explodes in some way. Even if you're not harming other people, you're harming yourself, and that negative energy does get out somehow. So, I mean, as I've said so many times, like my content is all about not just cannabis, not just food and exercise, but it's about self-love, like allowing yourself to feel all of your feelings, allowing yourself to like eat the food that you want to eat in moderation, and like using exercise as a way to build your spirits and your mood. Because having that like positive attitude toward yourself is just so beneficial for everyone around you. So I've always been very hard on myself in many aspects of life. And I'm the kind of person who does give up too easily if I'm not succeeding right away. But I have learned to overcome that a bit more. And I've definitely learned to like analyze my behaviors and recognize patterns. Like if I give up on something too quickly, then I know that I was just so close to like reaching the finish line of whatever I was trying to accomplish. So I need to stay on track and be nice to myself and be patient with myself so that I can achieve whatever it is that I set out to do. Self-love is very hard. It's something that takes a very long time to work on, but knowing that it's a long process and putting the effort into being nicer to yourself and to build a really positive relationship with your mind and your body, it's 100% worth it, because I mean, your relationship with yourself is the longest relationship you will ever have in your entire life. So you may as well treat yourself right and be happy with who you are. And you don't always have to be positive about your progress or your journey all the time, because that's very unrealistic. But know that when those negative feelings do come up about body image or eating or exercise or your mind, your success, whatever, just come up with some type of plan to work through those really difficult feelings to get yourself on the other side of those feelings. And I've dealt with that so many times, from breakups to job dissatisfaction to my own fitness journey. I've felt very negatively about wherever I was at that point in time, but I I never let myself dwell for too long, because I know that being in that state of misery for too long is just not going to be beneficial for my progress moving forward, or it's not going to be beneficial for the friends who try to take care of me around me. So I always try to, let myself feel whatever I'm feeling, but within a short period of time, I want to have a plan to get out on the other side of that. And that applies to everything in life. And, getting through those negative feelings is definitely a lesson that we all can learn from. Everyone grows through some of their lowest points, and just taking that growth and applying it to more like positive things in the future is just the best life lesson I could ever offer. It's just good to yourself.
Totally. I mean, 100%. I mean, and it's difficult, which I think is why another reason it's so important to have these people in your life that can encourage you to be that way, like you. So that being said, if people want to interact with you, follow you, slide in your DMs, email you, send you presents in the mail, where are all the ways that people can add you into that circle?
Sure. So I am on TikTok as dope_kitchen. That's where you can find my primary recipe videos and silliness. And then on Instagram, I'm dope__kitchen. I try to post a little more than what I do on TikTok. And that's where all of my full recipes are listed. And you can definitely slide into my DMs there. I love hearing from people. And even if I don't have the time to respond to everyone, the messages mean a lot to me. And then do I have anything else? No, not yet. But a website will soon be in the works. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so freaking much for being on my podcast. I just think, again, not to just completely keep fangirling over you. I just think that you're awesome and keep it up. And I will continue to lurk on you online.
I can't wait. Thank you so much for having me. This was a really fun conversation, and I really enjoyed talking to you.
For info on health coaching and more, go to AmandaValentineBites.com.